Hello everyone, my name is Berat Kjamili, and today I'm here at ORSAM talking about economic aspects of migration. Migration is a huge word, and today it affects us globally. It's in the United States, it's in Turkey, it's in Afghanistan, everywhere there are migrants and refugees. Today, I will be talking about the economic aspects of migration, how migration affects our economy, our GDP growth, our jobs, inflation, and our lives. I will not focus on cultural aspects of migration. I will only focus on economic aspects to analyze how migrants affected some countries with the existing data. Let me introduce you myself. My name is Berat Kjamili. I was born in Macedonia, which is North Macedonia nowadays. And I also afterwards migrated to Turkey as an expat to study here at Middle East Technical University in economics department. I'm also ethnically Turkish, so I always wanted to live in Turkey, and I decided after my teenage years that it's my time to come to my homeland, which is Turkey. But when I come here, I realized I'm a foreigner because I don't have the legal status. And afterwards, my life as a migrant started. I had to renew my residence permit, get my residence permit to study, get my residence permit to live, and get my residence permit to work. So this experience actually led me to look deeply into migration, how this can affect our lives, and how we can really turn migration into our benefits. I started Migport, which is a mobile application connecting refugees to locals. I participated in 2 migration management services, which is run by the Turkish government and has over 15 million users. And I also do social entrepreneurship work. Today, I'm one of the coordinators of Rutgers University Social Entrepreneurship Workshop. We invite students from Iraq, Turkey, and Pakistan to join our workshop and start social ventures in all around the world to tackle social problems. I'm really dedicated to find social innovation for our social problems because I believe right now with the technology, there is a new life for us, which is more included when there is more inclusion and when there is more opportunities. And I believe technology is a way. But rather than technology, let's come right now to the migration. When we say migration, what people think of? People think of topics like, they say, do refugees impact economy bad? Some of the people believe that refugees are a burden of the government. Some people believe that refugees take local jobs of the locals. Some people say there is inflation, the prices go up. Some people say refugees will return back. Then there is a discussion like, shall we receive highly skilled refugees or low-skilled refugees? And it is also same for migrants, but for the refugees, it's more instant because they are running after they've been forcibly displaced from their countries. But all of these questions, answering to one of these questions, we need science behind it. We need data, because if we just say that refugees impact economy bad, in what terms is my next question? How does it impact bad? How does it impact good? Today, we will cover some of these questions, and by the end of this lecture, we will be able to understand the effects, and whether it's bad or whether it's good, we will see by the end of the lecture. Here are actually some, let's say, words that I'm using, and in order not to, actually confuse them, I will be telling one by one what each of one means. Immigrants are defined by the American institution that a person who lives in a country where they are not born. For instance, if you live in another country and you are not born there, you are an immigrant. Then we have internationally displaced people, IDPs. These people are the people either who forced to leave their countries or the people who were born in the countries that couldn't get citizenship. We have refugees who apply for asylum and who get the refugee status and refugees protection. And under Geneva Convention, they have the privileges of being a refugee. And we have asylum seekers who apply to get asylum in the different countries. We have, in Turkey, we have a different term, which Turkey is using for the people coming from the east part of Turkey. It's called people under temporary protection. For instance, Syrians who are today in Turkey, they are not refugees nor asylum seekers. They are people under temporary protection. They are called Syrians under temporary protection. Same occurs for Afghans. Afghans also get either international protection or temporary protection. That's why in Turkey, if you look, the number of refugees who are registered as a refugee is really low, but people under temporary protection who are refugees but don't have the refugee status because of the Turkey agreements with the Geneva Convention, they are people under temporary protection. So if we say Turkey don't have refugees, it's right, but it's wrong because Turkey has people under temporary protection. This is different than the Europe and America because in the Germany, they are either asylum seekers or refugees and maybe some people under temporary protection. But in Turkey, when we talk about the Syrians, they are people under temporary protection. It's really, we should really highlight this for the sake of the argument because we are going to analyze the effects of Turkey given the number of the people under temporary protection who fled the war from Syria and migrated to Turkey. In globe, so today, the UNHCR states that there is 281 million international migrants. Remember, we said an immigrant is a person who lives in a country which they were not born. And today there is 281 million international migrants who reside in the United States, in Turkey, in Pakistan, in China, in Africa. So like they're either economic migrants who migrate to have a better life or people who fled war. When we look to the people who've been displaced, who fled war or who fled violence, their number is 82.4 million. So actually the people who've been displaced due to war or violence, the number of the people displaced is actually 82.4 million people. And when we look to the refugees, remember I said the refugees are the people who have been granted refugee status with UNHCR or either as under temporary protection. So their number is 26.4 million. There are currently 26.4 million refugees, and half of them is under age of 18. So, and these people are, if I say to you, like, guess where these people are living. So that's going to be our next topic that we are going to see. Right now, I will show you about where these people are living. I'm talking about the refugees, which their number is 26.4 million people. And there is a project, it's called the refugeeproject.org, and they really show very good data about where the refugees are residing. And you can also click to this website I'm going to show to you. Actually, this is the refugees, origin countries of refugees. And when you look historically, their countries, as you can see, from Afghanistan was one of the major countries giving refugees. Then we see Iraq giving refugees to the rest of the world. Then we see here Syria, the Syrian war started, and the Syrians become one of the major refugees in all around the world. This map shows us how migrants migrated. So when you click to the Syria, you can see where the Syrians went, and you can see that Syrians went to Turkey and Germany mainly. When you click to the Afghanistan, you see that the Afghans fled to Pakistan and Iran, and some to Germany. And nowadays they are coming to Turkey. When we look to the, let's say, South Sudan, we see that they also fled to the many countries. These are the countries who gave immigrants, people who fled their countries due to war, who are refugees, not the migrants and others. When we see to the asylum country, on the other hand, right now, as you can see, the Turkey is the #1 country receiving the refugees, which is over 3.6 million people. So they mainly come from Syria and they mainly come from Afghanistan and Iraq. And as you can see, they're also coming from Africa. And right now, if you see, like they're actually from Africa and Asia, and even from Balkans, people actually applied as refugees in Turkey. But just remember that this map doesn't show the other migrants who reside in Turkey. If we look to the other migrants who reside in Turkey, the number might be even higher because this is only the refugees. When you look to the Germany, on the other hand, you see that Germany is hosting right now, based on the UNHCR data, over 1 million refugees reside in Germany. And they are mainly coming from Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Pakistan, Russia, and Turkey, and some are also coming from African countries. But there are also people coming from South America too. When we look to the Pakistan also, which is a developing country, also received around 1.5 million refugees, if we run the number. And mainly people from Afghanistan are right now refugees in Pakistan. We also see here Bangladesh. Bangladesh also received around 900,000 refugees from Myanmar. This map really shows us where the migration and mass migration movements happen, and it's also a good sense of analyzing what's happening in migration. And historically, if you look, let's go to the 1998. From the 1998, Turkey didn't host refugees. Only, let's say, 3,000 people were residing in Turkey in 1998. As you can see, Serbia hosted around 500,000 refugees, and from Bosnia and Croatia and the other countries. But then, when the Balkan Wars ended, after the collapse of Yugoslavia, you see that the migration in actually refugees from Balkan region has been decreased. And we see that shift is happening from the actually MENA region and Africa. And as you can see right now, the number of the refugees grow rapidly, dramatically in Turkey, which means that Turkey right now is the #1 country receiving the refugees. And I really like the data because that shows a lot about, right now, who is taking the burden of the refugees. As you can see in that, actually, when we look to the Europe, Germany is mainly taking the burden. When we look to the MENA, you see Turkey taking the burden, you see Jordan actually taking the burden. So right now we cannot see, I cannot click on Jordan because it's too, but Jordan and Lebanon also host many numbers of refugees. Now being back to the topics, where are the refugees now? The refugees are right now actually in developing countries. 86% of the refugees from around 20 million people I'm talking here about. So they are residing in developing countries. Actually, the developing countries are taking the burden of people who fled war. And when you see the other statistics, it shows that 73% of refugees hosted in the neighboring countries. If there is a conflict in Afghanistan, refugees go to Pakistan and they are residing there around like a number with 1 million people. When conflict happens in Syria, you see that the Turkey hosts most number of refugees. And mainly they are not developed countries, they are developing countries. The #1 developed countries who are taking the refugees is Germany. But when we look to the United States or UK, they also have like, let's say around, like in United States, there is 50 million immigrants, but they are not refugees, they are immigrants. And there are right now 11 million irregular migrants in United States who come from Mexico, Haiti, and the other countries, or let's say from South America. Right now, the number is 11 million in 11 million undocumented people in actually in America, United States of America, but they are not granted refugee status. They are undocumented. And in United Kingdom, there is around, let's say, 11 million or let's say 10 million international immigrants who reside there for the last 30 years. Actually, also UK and United States also has high number of immigrants, but they don't share the burden of number of refugees who fled war in the last 10 years. And when we see the demographics, we see that the children account, let's say, 42% of forcibly displaced people. So actually, as you can see, half of them are children, but the children account for 30% of the world population. if you can see from these statistics, what it tells us is that refugees are mostly children, around half of them, but in the world it's only 30%. So this is actually very sad for the people who reside in the camps, because these people are in the lost generation. If we are not gaining them, they will be there forever. And it's not good for the country, and it's not good for the children to be lost. And their numbers, like imagine we have, let's say, 20 million refugees, 10 million children under age of 18, they're residing in camps, they cannot leave the camps. So it's like really saddening. And I guess we as a world should find some solutions for the people who live in the camps, or for people who live in the cities, which we're going to be talking about. Major source countries of refugees, actually the Syria, let's say, produced like 6.7 million refugees. Like there are right now in the world 6.7 million Syrian refugees. Venezuela, on the other hand, has 4 million refugees. Afghanistan has 2.6 million refugees. South Sudan has 2.2 million refugees, and Myanmar has 1.1 million refugees. All these people fled their countries because there was war, or there was there were violence. On the other hand, who received these refugees? As you can see, Turkey received 3.7 million refugees. Colombia received 1.7 million refugees. Pakistan then Uganda, and number 5th is Germany. And Germany is the only developed country here which received, let's say, the 5th number of refugees. But as you can see, like the number of the Turkey is really high compared to the other countries. It's sometimes doubled when you see double or tripled the number of the other countries. And that's why right now the Turkey is also for us a good country to analyze the economic impacts, because whatever happens in Turkey will be a pathway for the other countries in the future to integrate refugees. As I said, there is right now 3.7 million Syrians under temporary protection. There are also Afghans, but today I will not be talking about Afghans. I'm talking about the Syrians under temporary protection. We also see additional, let's say, around 97,000 Syrians with residence permit who are residing in Turkey, like me, who have here, who can study, who can work, but they are not under temporary protection. And what's actually interesting, and let's say good example of Turkey, when we see refugees, people think of camps, but in Turkey, refugees are not residing in camps. Only 1.45% of Syrians under temporary protection reside in camps, which means that over 98% of refugees, Syrians under temporary protection, they are in cities. They live next to locals. They are neighbors with locals. They share, let's say, the same food. And also the economic and cultural impact is seen not in the camps, but in the cities. And also this is a good example because the children can go to education. The children also are not packed in the camps. And what I love about the Turkey activities for refugees is that they are not residing in the camps, they are in the cities. This can create more problems, but we are not losing generations. And if they are residing in Turkey in the future, they will be educated people because they get education. And I guess that's really important here. Half of them is, let's say 45% or 40% of them are children, and they are residing in cities, which is really good about Turkey. Mainly they reside in Istanbul, in Gaziantep, in Hatay, in Şanlıurfa, Adana, Mersin. As you can see, like 500,000 reside in Istanbul, but Istanbul population is like around, let's say, over 16 million. Gaziantep has very similar population to Istanbul, but we have another city, which is Kilis. Kilis is a very small city. Maybe their population was 100,000 before Syrians. And right now there is additional 121,000 people under temporary protection living in Kilis. Imagine like half of the city are refugees, and that's a city of Kilis in Turkey. And compared to their population, is let's say it's like two times their population. And with Kilis, actually, it's a good example to analyze what's happening in Kilis, how we can, avoid conflicts, how these people can live peacefully, and how these people live peacefully in 10 years. So they have been living peacefully in 10 years in Kilis, and I guess Kilis actually in Turkey was one of the best cities managing migrants because it's their half population. In Turkey, if we see, it's like mostly females, mostly males, and there are females. As you can see from the numbers, it's let's say like 55% are males and let's say 45% are females. Maybe it's not the exact, but the numbers are written there. I'm just running numbers to make it easier. And as you can see, in Turkey, mostly, not most of them, but so like let's say 40% of them are children under age of 18. As I said, like Turkey did really good with refugees. It's really a high burden. If you see like being the #1 country, and Turkey is a developing country. Turkey is not a developed country. So I guess right now when we see what's happening in terms of Europe and Turkey, I guess there should be more deals and these people should be more integrated in the society. And Turkey has been doing a really good job in terms of taking care of the refugees. And also they have been, and Germany as well, like in Europe, Germany was the #1 country taking care of the migrants. If we talked enough about the, let's say, the numbers. Right now, I'm gonna go into the economic aspects. It's really important to understand these numbers because otherwise people can misunderstand that they are living in the camps. There is no way of gaining this population, but there is actually. And we are gonna see an example of United States. How in United States, immigrants, not refugees, undocumented migrants shaped American economy and shaped the nation of immigrants. America is often referred as the nation of immigrants. We are going to see how it has affected their economy. Right now, 50% of Americans think that migrants, international immigrants, strengthen their economy, and 30% of their population thinks that is a burden of the government, which means like 1 out of 2 people believes that refugees are good for economy. But previously, 2 people out of 3 people thought that it's a burden of the economy, of the government. In America right now, it's been shifted. The younger population thinks that refugees, immigrants can really better off America. Let's see whether it did or not. I will little bit make it, let's say, easier. I will imagine that we are a village of 100 people. And as you can see, this is a really cool village. So it's like we are a developed country. So we are an industry, we have an industry. Our GDP is one of the highest in the countries. This village represents America, one of the, let's say America, but imagine in America only 100 people were living. And as you can see in this village, what happens is that one of the countries had war and 10 people, 10 refugees applied for protection. And right now the question is, shall we grant protection to these people? Shall we accept them to our village and also increase our population? What will be the outcomes of this economically? If I ask you in the audience, do you think that shall we grant protection of this to these people if we are not considering the human perspective? So right now I'm not talking about that they are humans, they should be inside. I'm talking more about the economical aspects. Shall we receive 10 refugees for protection, which will be, let's say like approximately 10% of the population? We have a professor from Harvard University, George Barjas, and he analyzed immigration surplus in America. And he analyzed how immigrants, which is around 50 million in America, 50 million immigrants there are, and the American population is over 300 million. So it's like 1/6 of America is immigrants. So they've been born in the different countries. And George Barjas studied the effects of these people, either come as an immigrant or come as an undocumented people to America. And Barjas tell us that Because the population grows, the aggregate demand grows in the countries caused by the population growth. And this leads to more jobs and higher wages in the long run for the locals. Based on George Barrias, as you can see, the population grow. These people in America, they started, actually, when you see the Sergey Brin was a second generation Jewish immigrant in the United States. When you see Steve Jobs, his father was a Syrian. When you see Elon Musk, he was born, or his family was born in South America. So actually, it's not only population growth, there's also entrepreneurship activity happened in the country. And America did a very good job of integrating these people and giving them the rights to start their businesses or work. And aggregate demand is, imagine aggregate demand as income of our country, demand for our, let's say, how much money we are spending. Because there are more people, these people are producing, these people are working, then there is also aggregate demand increases in the country. And when you look, because the aggregate demand increased, there is also more jobs, and there is also higher wages. And if you see in America, I guess, immigration surplus was around 1%. So in America, immigrants, even their numbers is really high, it only impacted American economy 1%. But for American economy, growing 1%, it's really high because they are not getting, let's say, they are not getting, they are already a developed country. But in our town, given that George Barrias was said to us, as we are a developed country, as we are like an American country, we said, in the long run, our locals will have more jobs and the wages will be increased. We said, let's receive these refugees. Let's integrate these refugees to the society. But there is a fact, when refugees or immigrants go to the other countries, it's proven with the data that even the skilled refugees or immigrants work with lower wages. They are not getting as much money as the locals. We received 10 people, 10 refugees or 10 immigrants to our country, and right now our population is 110. But what happened is that because aggregate demand increased with the population, the prices can go high, but it depends on how much our aggregate demand goes up. And we see that the refugees are also working for the lower wages. And like they also work in the lower wages in agriculture and construction mainly. So we expect the wages in agriculture and construction to be decreased. And as we are a developed country, we still have people with less income. These people get affected by the refugees because they might lose their jobs because the wages in various sectors go down. This is a short-term effect. And now, as our village, we have to deal with this. Some people lost their jobs. There is also a bit inflation because not because the refugees are buying more, but it's because our aggregate demand increased. Right now, we have more money in the country, we have more jobs, but people with lower income, let's say the poor, been affected badly. They cannot work in agriculture and construction. What's happening is here that the people who worked before in agriculture and construction, they tend to shift their works to language-related works. They go and do, let's say, jobs which require English language. And refugees who don't speak English, they work in construction or agriculture where they don't need a language. But there is another effect which I haven't talked yet. As an economist and as an economist, we gathered together, we said our town, let's not focus on the short-term effect, let's focus on the long-term effect. What will happen? As the refugees are working for the lower wages, it increases productivity, which means that with the lower wages right now, the companies of our small village can produce more because it will pay less to people. And what happens? The demand increased. On the other hand, it's not demand increased, the supply increased. Demand increased because of the population growth and people are purchasing more. But when the productivity increases, it means it will be for us less expensive to open another factory. And we will open another factory, we will hire people. And right now, actually the productivity has been increased. This will shift prices down. The inflation will be shifted down relative to the actual productivity increase. If productivity increased more than the aggregate demand increased, then we are going to have less inflation. And there are, as we said, children. Half of the 10 refugees who come to our small village, they are children. We have to educate them. We have to open schools. We have to also spend some money from the government side. And when we spend when there is government spending, it also increases demand again, which means in the long term, our GDP growth will be much higher. We will have a stronger economy, and we will have new employment opportunities for locals, not only for migrants. And this happened in the United States. When you see the United States, this is based on the data which Borjas showed us, and the rest what you see is my economic analysis, and I try to make it really, really easy. So overall, in the United States, in our small village, we got better off with migrants. Right now, the people who lost their jobs in the short term have better jobs. They have higher paying jobs. Why? Because productivity increased, our demand increased, and the locals right now can work for the higher prices. There is also another data from actually a study. It shows that food expenditure by country, the percent of consumer expenditure spent on food consumed at home, is one of the lowest in the world in the United States. And the study believes that it's because irregular migrants are working in the farming industry, and it makes really cheap to produce food in the United States. Various products can have inflation, but it doesn't mean that everything in the country will have inflation. Sometimes it can be deflation, which is prices can go down. In the United States, it happens. And in our town, we will imagine that food prices also been decreased because people right now we can produce goods cheaply, and we can produce more goods. But when it comes to the jobs, is what really matters. It's what matters how much money we as locals get. So the refugees are with us. We analyzed the short-term effects. We knew that some of the construction workers will lose their job. We didn't leave them. We went there. We actually helped also locals find jobs. When we talk about the migration, it's not only about refugees, it's also about locals. And if we analyze that, when we get refugees, the locals, let's say the low-wage locals will get affected. We can also prepare them a new job program, which will help them get jobs with the economic growth. As the prices increased, wages increased for the locals locals. Right now, locals can get more money. Unemployment, we are expecting unemployment to fall because right now we have a better economy. We have refugees who are really hardworking and who are really doing very good, actually, to better of us. The unemployment also falls for us because right now there are more jobs in the country where we can use our language and work there. And imagine we are America right now. Entrepreneurship activity has been boosted. Right now there are so many startups which we couldn't imagine before. And right now what happens is that we received refugees, we integrated them, and we are a developed country. This is really important. If we are integrating them, there is growth. But if we were in another village, and if we didn't integrate these people, I think there wouldn't be as much growth, or it would have even been a negative growth, because if these people are not integrated, they are not beneficial. If they are not documented, they are not beneficial. Innovation and entrepreneurship in America, when we see like 30% of the American businesses started by immigrants, and 15% of American population consists of immigrants. When we see the Fortune 500 companies, based on the University of Oxford and Citi data, 40% of Fortune 500 companies are actually had immigrant co-founders. And we have unicorns who are actually rock stars of startups who are valued over $1 billion US. And 50% of all unicorns in the world have foreigner co-founders, which means that entrepreneurship and innovation is one of the key drivers which immigrants affect a lot. If we are giving them the chances, if we are living in America and if we have a Silicon Valley, imagine, let's say, 30% or 50% of those companies are started by immigrants because the immigrants can really provide to the country. But if we are keeping them in the camps, of course, they cannot start this kind of startups. And when we talk about the immigrants in the United States, it's not only highly skilled refugees. Second generations are actually more highly skilled. Steve Jobs' father was as a student there, but he wasn't as skilled as the Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was adopted by an American family and he was given chances. And look what he did. He started Apple, which shifted actually the phone industry. There's another study which shows that 91 unicorns in America, 50 of them have immigrant funders. And overall, these startups generated $248 billion for American economy, which means that each of 50 startups that started by immigrants in America employed 1,200 people each. And this is a really good effect. They are not getting refugees to work. They also getting Americans. Americans right now have more jobs. Our small village, because we were a developed country and we really integrated these people into the society, we give them chances. For the unskilled people, we give them technical education. For the skilled people, we give them good positions. And right now, these people in our small village, they contribute to the society and they contributed to America. It's not something what I'm saying based on hypothesis. To conclude, our small village, right now, we are a richer country. We were a rich country, but right now we are richer. Our startups are really rock stars in the world. And we analyzed how to contribute, how to protect the people who will be affected by the migrants, how to give them more jobs. This was a good economic policy to sum up, because we realized that agriculture and construction will be affected. We prepared for them a new job and employment plan. They didn't lose their jobs and they were happy. It didn't cause any cultural conflict in our small village because we predetermined that. Secondly, we also gave chances for refugees and immigrants to start their businesses, to work, and to get skills. That's very important. We educated kids, and those kids who are educated in our country right now, they can be rock stars as Steve Jobs. Thirdly, there is something with George Borjas tell us. He tell us that even if we received only unskilled immigrants or refugees, still there is an increase in GDP growth because of population and demand. If we received only skilled and educated refugees, then their effect would have been much, much, much higher. Overall, even if all the refugees who come to our countries are unskilled, and if we give them skills to work, if we prepare them, it can boost our economy less than it can boost from the skilled people. Both of them can boost our economy, let's say from 0.10%, let's say from 0.10% to 1%. If they are all skilled, we expect economic and GDP to grow really high. But if they are unskilled, we expect economic growth to be slightly, let's say, stimulus and less. We did a really good job integrating these people to our economy. And IMF today suggests to Canada, to United Kingdom, and to America to receive more migrants. Why is that? Because based on what the Borjas tell us and what the other economists agree on. But here it's really important to have a line that if we are not integrating this population, it's nonsense to talk about the economic growth. And IMF also states that we have data that developed countries can benefit from migration. But when we look to the developing countries which host let's say over 80% of refugees, there's no data that their economy will be good. Why? Because as I said, the integration process might not be there. The economy might not have opportunities for more jobs. So economically speaking, this is really important. If we are a developed country, it's certain that we can benefit from migrants and refugees if we integrate them. But if we are in a developing world, if we are, let's say, in Pakistan, we receive refugees. Just because we received refugees and our population is higher, it doesn't mean our economy will get better. And there is no data suggesting that developing countries benefit from the migration. They might have some benefits, like in Turkey, 15,000 businesses started by migrants. But in order to say that GDP growth was due to migration, we have to analyze it. How we can analyze it? We can analyze the GDP. We can analyze how many jobs were created. We can analyze government spending. Right now in Turkey, the government spending is for refugees. They spent like 40 billion in last 10 years. And in Europe, there was some deals which also brought money, $3 billion from European Union to Turkey. And these have, of course, a good effect to our economy because this money comes as a plus. Based on the Keynesian theory, when you increase GDP, if you want to increase GDP, government spending, increasing the government spending is one of the best ways if there is consumption and investment, because it affects everything. But still, we cannot say that Turkey benefited from migration because we don't know that. But maybe among you, there are some very good researchers, economists, machine learning scientists. You can study this. And I really encourage you to study the economic effects of migrants in Turkey, in Germany, in Pakistan. And that's going to be a better pathway to us how to integrate refugees. Personally, I believe like technology can really help us integrate refugees. With technology, refugees can work online and it can bring more work to our local countries. There is Summer Source in America, and actually they go to Africa, they get computers, and refugees work from computers to delete data, let's say from servers. And it's like, doesn't require skills. It's like a very small training. And with this, refugees also can get money and the company get also profits. I believe in this kind of innovation. I really believe we have the technology right now. We have the blockchain technology. We can create new fintech solutions, which we can also use for locals. And there is another company, it's called Bankits. He's my friend. And what it makes, it's use a cryptocurrency, and refugees can use this cryptocurrency to send money and to open a bank account. This is a good innovation to show that which can also be beneficial for locals. Maybe we're going to be paying less money to banks and less commission. So it's also good for our innovation. We have the big data. Our friend Isabella will be with us today, and she's going to talk about the computational mass migrations. And we did there a research about, how big data can be used actually to analyze and to help countries prepare better solutions. As I said, economy is a way to do mathematics of migration, and the big data really fasten the process. As I said, I started MigBot to help refugees connect with locals. Why I did that? I realized that we have refugees here, they don't meet locals, they maybe not be meeting with their potential employers, and they have skills, they have needs and preferences. I said, if they have skills, needs, and preferences, we have to understand what are their skills, what are their needs, and what are their preferences. And we have livelihood sector in Turkey, we have employers in Turkey, we have very good programs in Turkey. Let's understand their skills anonymously and connect them with local employers, connect them with the local workshops, connect them to the skill training in order they to be beneficial to the country. And this is as my team. We are 4 people, 5 people, and we started this as a social enterprise. We are a digital bridge. We connect refugees with locals, and we connect refugees to the local country and host countries. And I believe the technologies like right now, this is one of the new innovations. And I believe in the future, we will see more this kind of appliances, which really helps us manage migration. If we are talking about the skill training, Migport can be a solution to understand their skills and also match them with potential employers so that the economy can get positive GDP growth. What happened with Migport was like a journey of entrepreneurship. I myself also am an entrepreneur in Turkey. I've been participated in 2 migration management services, which has over 15 million users. We have been in Forbes. We have been cited by the Oxford University, and PayPal also accepted us to their accelerator programs. I will continue working in migration, and I will continue working to analyze economic aspects of migration, tell people about how we can use our resources to help refugees and how we can actually give and gain lost generations. This is what I really believe, and this is what I'm really working. If you'd like to write to me, you can see my email today, and thanks ORSAM for hosting me. I'm open for questions, and I hope you had really good time seeing the effects of refugees. If you have any question, I'm here to answer. As I said, there is no way for lost generation. There is only one option: gain generation. Thanks.